and maintenance of large aircraft, and also now the operations and manufacture and maintenance of drone as well. Okay. I also am a lembaga pengarah MIDA, dan I do a lot of work dengan SIRIM and a few other organisations. So I got good overview of a lot of the organisations in Malaysia. Yang penting ni, when we develop the drone action plan ni, seperti mana yang Safwan cakap, dari yang bila kita mulakan sebenarnya banyak unknown lah, kan? There a lot of siloed players, kan? Kita pun tak pasti apa potensi industri ini. Okay. So sebagai overview, okay, I'll just continue mostly in English. This is all in English, the slides. So historically, most of our drone activities is military. So kalau you tahu daripada CTRM dulu, Composite Technology Research Malaysia, right? So some of you in the forces would know they converted the Eagle aircraft into a reconnaissance aircraft, and then lepas tu dia ada Aludra and other drone platforms untuk mengawal border lah kat Malaysia. And so itu pada awalnya adalah military application. So recently kalau tengok Ukraine kan, sekarang kita ada suicide drone kan. So I think military application of drone is definitely something which will continue, and I'm glad to see a lot of forces people like ini lah, but you are one of the major users and beneficiaries. Tapi to mature the technologies for the most disruptive application macam agriculture, infrastructure, transportation kan. So agriculture ni I think sekarang ni we are quite used to seeing pakcik-pakcik petani yang memakai drone untuk spray sawah padi kan, dan di kawasan-kawasan kelapa sawit, right, for spraying. Belum lagi boleh extract bunch tu daripada pokok. Itu yang I think itulah impiannya kan, tak payah pakai bangla dah, itu terus hantar drone je. Tapi mungkin itu solusinya tak viable lagi. Dan untuk for this project to become viable, the business model we must get right. So sebenarnya aerospace industry dah lama collaborate with Civil Aviation Authority Malaysia, right, dalam general aviation. So before we start ni, I want to give a little bit of overview. The general aviation industry in Malaysia iaitu pesawat-pesawat yang kecil, 2 seat, 4 seat, single seat, right? Also in the maintenance and the operations and modifications of aircraft such as that. Historically kita ada bottleneck sikit dalam tu. That industri tu lebih 50 tahun dah, right? Dan bottleneck dia adalah kolaborasi di antara industri dengan regulator. Okay, so I think CAM over time ni has been putting a lot of effort to evolve the Civil Aviation Authority to be able to cope with the new technology requirements. Okay, tapi kalau you pergi kepada CAM sekarang ni, you jumpa kat Kila dan mungkin 3-4 lagi kualiti dia lah kan. So funding untuk CAM ni antara benda yang kita kena resolve. Kalau tidak, tak cukup resource di Singapura for the drone task force saja di dalam the Civil Aviation Authority. I think maybe Akila you can confirm this. It's about 70 people, 70 orang handle drone saja. Kan? So kesian kat Akila kan. Semua orang kenal Akila sebab semua orang memang call kacau dia. So business model sekarang ni yang penting. This is very important. So take a page from the general aviation industry of Malaysia. 50 years bottleneck because of that. So kalau kita tak resolve benda tu, drone industry akan mengalami masalah yang sama. Sebabnya drone dia bermula sebagai enthusiast punya industri kan, daripada kita main kita beli kat drone kecil kan, sekarang anak dia main kan. Sekarang tiba-tiba ada kamera, boleh skoding orang lah, macam-macam gitu buat kan. I think polis pun dah tahu sekarang ni banyak jenayah-jenayah mungkin dipantau oleh drone ke kan. So when we look at the drone application ni, dia datang daripada situ sebenarnya. Tapi sebenarnya di dalam aplikasi sebenarnya ia adalah industri aeroangkasa. And if you look at how CAM is getting involved now, it is a regulated industry. It's very important that everybody understands that this is going to be a regulated industry, right? So there are a lot of business models that you are developing today which must ensure that the regulator is able to support you. Without the support, say the latest National Day dekat Putrajaya, I think 6 drones or 5 drones were shot down, right? Because doing things they're not supposed to do, that will become a more regular appearance. And some of the things that we are concerned about, bila you tengok the drones dekat Sawpadi, I remember Kamarul was telling me he was dekat Kedah kan, pergi kat Sawpadi, tepi airport, nampak pakcik tengah fly drone tepi airport kan. So I'm an aircraft designer. That's actually what I do. I design aircraft for Airbus. That's my history, right? So I got 20 years experience designing aircraft. And in the aircraft design, you have something called the bird strike requirement. The bird strike requirement is a 2.2 pound bird dalam sekilo lebih, fired at 300 meters per second at the aircraft, and the aircraft must withstand that shock. Your drone is at 18 kilos. If it is the agricultural drone, hitting an aircraft that is taking off will cause a lot more damage than a bird strike. One incident is enough for us to have a serious problem with the regulator. Okay, so I want that sobering sort of message to go through, because when we go through here, the plan is actually to make sure we step through the business process and grow in a way that will facilitate real revenue for the companies, real services for the operators and the national service requirements, right? And a sustainable drone industry. That's important. Okay. Okay. So this summary, you can see lah. So many players already lah. Everybody is getting into the drone industry today. I listened to a podcast on Spotify called the Drone Industry Podcast. There are 500 episodes there, and I think everything from whale watching, kan, biological punya usage untuk memantau ikan paus, sehingga ke forest fire kat California, until the normal operations of inspection of tiang elektrik and so on and so forth. Semua sekarang memakai drone. Right? And all in regulated environment. Okay. So there's a lot of players here, but what we find is that when we did this work, we talked to quite a few of you, not all of you. So hari ini insyaAllah kita dapat lebih banyak input daripada kamu. Tapi we found that everybody still starting their punya business idea. Some are making money, some are investing money, right? Some are planning to start into the industry. So you're all at different levels of readiness. Okay. So as I said, number one, I won't talk anymore about this, but without regulation, 4 challenges here. Number one challenge is make sure that we have the regulatory environment to support the growth of the industry. Number one requirement. Okay. Then closely followed by the technology. So the drone market is a high-tech market that is constantly evolving. Drone manufacturers are racing to improve the hardware technology as it's still limited endurance, range, payload, automation, and reliability. Right? So today, if you do crop spraying, for example, if you use battery, you might have to replace the battery quite often. I know MRANTI is here. They have a petrol 2-stroke engine punya drone, bising macam arupit, tapi boleh tahan sejam. Kan? So different types of technology solution for different applications now to tackle endurance, range, payload, automation, and reliability issues. So a lot of drone design requirements are still appearing. Sustainability. Drone technology provides a unique opportunity to pursue investable ESG business model. So investable ni maksud apa? People are investing into the drone industry, right? So kalau kita tengok macam I think Aerodyne is our poster boy lah for investment. Aerodyne, you are serious Aerodyne? Yes. Strand employee. So Aerodyne is in an investment mode today, and I think Drone Fund Japan, right, the biggest investor in Aerodyne. So most of Aerodyne, itulah kita keluarkan sokawar banyak pasal Malaysian investment kat Aerodyne kan. Sebenarnya kecil saja. The Drone Fund Japan investment, the Series C, I think is what, upwards of $200 million already. So it's a billion ringgit company, Aerodyne, in terms of duit dalam bank. That's why kalau pergi ke Aerodyne, you nampak dia punya warehouse penuh dengan drone yang terbaru. Sampai DJI pun cannot keep up dengan order dia. Right? So investable ni because it is environmental, social, governance, opportunity, ESG. Does everybody know what ESG is? Semua tahu tak? Nak dengar tak ESG? Kamu nak dengar? No, not answer. Never heard tak? Okay, now we have to read up. Got opportunity, right? New industry, ESG, this is an audit requirement, right? So kalau people want to put money, the bank want to put money in companies in the future, they will look at ESG, right? You punya environment, carbon footprint, right? You punya social, macam kita apa, letak foreign workers 5 dalam satu bilik tu, jadi S problem lah, kan? So S. G, governance. Governance ni apa, syarikat ni telus tak, right? So this is a company that has clear governance. And from the Civil Aviation Authority standpoint, they always, so some of you which are new to the RPTO scheme, you see that CCM requests that you have an organizational chart, right? So a lot of people don't understand exactly what that chart is for. That chart is to show that you have a structure of competence in your organization. That's a typical aerospace thing. Whether you're manufacturing, maintaining or operating aircraft, you have to have your organizational chart and a competence map. Now, most entrepreneurs that are not in the aerospace industry will not naturally do something like that. Develop an organizational chart. Because that organizational chart is the chart of responsibility. Siapa yang bertanggungjawab ke atas keselamatan produk yang dikeluarkan atau diselenggara. That's what the org chart is for. So I noticed when I spoke with Captain Akila, this is one of the problems lah. The org chart tu macam, betul lah Akila? Tak betul lah. Competence tak betul lah, documentation tak betul. Itulah keperluan org chart tu. Alright? So it's very important because the governance then becomes an issue. So if your governance is not strong or transparent, then when you get this, if you want to use ESG as a means to raise funds from the international market, right? Like Aerodyne has done. Aerodyne is ESG compliant. Then you have to have this capability. Okay? So development of financial models for each and then within the ecosystem maps for synergies and interdependence. Nanti I'll show you pictures about it. But between their business and sustainability models, this means that actually all of you are interacting with each other. All of your business models are interdependent, right? So if the RPTO is not producing enough people for you to hire as pilots, you cannot fly your drones. If the RPTO's requirements don't meet the Civil Aviation Authority's requirements, then the RPTO cannot produce certified pilots. Okay? For the Civil Aviation Authority to certify your pilots, they must have people who can assess the pilots. If they don't have enough resource, then you get a bottleneck and you won't get your pilots also. So their problem is your problem. Your problem is also their problem. Right? Okay, let's be clear. Right? That is what the action plan is about. How are we going to work together so that our business models are helping each other, right? So the only one not in the sense making money is absorbing is the civil operator lah. But they have a very clear requirement of safety, civil safety, or civil security, civil safety or civil security. So we need to be able to provide that to them in a way that makes them able to pay for those services, right, if required. And finally, cost efficiency. So drone technology is all about better cost efficiency. So I like to explain the idea here is simple. Dulu kalau pencawang elektrik or telephone pole kan, so kalau kita buat inspection macam mana? Ada somebody will come with a truck, kan? Ada orang pegang tangga, ada orang panjat tangga, ambil gambar, ada orang ambil report kat bawah. 3 orang, kan? Satu tiang, 45 minit kot. Okay? Sekarang drone macam mana? Datang tu, kan? 40 minit mungkin RM80 satu tiang. Kan? Satu hari boleh buat berapa banyak tiang. Itulah business model dia. Tapi drone sekarang, how many tiang dalam satu hari mungkin 10 kali ganda. Sebab dia boleh tumpang dia ambil gambar. Dan dengan macam Aerodyne, Polar Drone punya Edge AI, the drone sekarang ni boleh recognize apa gambar yang patut diambil. What pictures should it take? So dia dah replace originally drone replace tangga. Sekarang drone dah replace mata. Later on drone akan replace otak. Dia akan fikir. Right? So at the end of the day, the business models for cost efficiency are continuously evolving in drones. So kalau you ingat you nak buat business model sekarang ni bertahan untuk 20 tahun, nasib lah. It's not going to happen. Right? You're in a disruptive industry now. You are in a disruptive industry now. So if you don't have agile businesses, your survivability is going to be an issue. Okay, so therefore it's important you all are working together to support each other's business model. Otherwise you akan sorong lah, kan, lone ranger lah, into the sunset by yourself also. Right? Okay, so what do we have in the Drone Tech Action Plan? Very simply, there are GDP and job creation targets. So before we started working dengan MRANTI ni, the industry tak ada target. Dia cuma ada activity. Right? We have activities but no goal, and this is very important. If you don't have a goal, nak borak dengan kerajaan susah. Sebenarnya you nak buat apa ni? Kan? Ini macam mana akan memanfaatkan rakyat Malaysia? Kan? How is it going to benefit the Malaysian people? Those questions you need to answer when the government is asked to support such an industry. Okay? So there are two major numbers that we came up with, which is the GDP impact revenue and the number of jobs, which I'll show you in a bit. Now, in order to achieve this, we applied a methodology by Marina Mazzucato, who's an economist. We call it the mission economy methodology. Right? She calls it mission economy methodology. So there are 8 missions. We're going to start with each mission. Some of you might have other ideas of what other missions could be. But the idea with these 8 missions is that they will together deliver the jobs and the revenue, the GDP. These 8 missions will deliver those 2 outcomes, which means each mission has to have a portion of that outcome. So if you are playing in that outcome, and the total GDP, I'll just tell you now, the total GDP requirement by 2030 is 50 billion ringgit per annum. Every year, 50 billion ringgit revenue from the drone industry. Right? That's not million. These are 1 MBB numbers, billion. Right? So 50 billion ringgit per annum and 100,000 jobs. Okay. I feel it's an underestimate. Okay. It's a conservative number. Why? Because the drone industry is not just the drone. It is the data. It is all the other services associated with it. The drone is only one part of the total solution. So even the telecommunications companies have a part to play in the drone industry, and that is GDP and jobs which will be enabled by the drone industry as well. So 50 billion ringgit. Now for the aerospace industry, we have a target of by 2030 at the same timeline, 55.2 billion ringgit in aircraft manufacturing, maintenance and services. So between the drone and the aerospace industry, 100 billion ringgit impact to the GDP of Malaysia by the year 2030. Inilah Malaysia baru. Aerospace, drone, data, right? And so on and so forth. And then after that, nanti angkasa akan come up with the space industry ni target juga lah. Right? So we today have 4 sandboxes running. Memang dah sedia ada. And that's to do with agriculture. AGS. AGS. Urban Air Mobility. Yes. Yes. Agriculture, urban air mobility, and I think 2 others. Drone park. DRSM. So those will continue, tapi they will also have some of these missions included with them. We have 30 drone tech companies yang kita engage masa kita buat action plan. So this is not limited to 30. At this time is 30, we will engage more, right? So whoever it is that's required. And then 5 drone designated sites. This is testing areas. So in the discussion dengan Datuk Sri Mustafa dengan KSN, we have identified these 5 drone sites with CAM to be test sites where we will start to prove out the different business models and operations. Right? Okay, ada soalan tak? So kita informal sikit lah. Tak ada soalan tanya. Okay, alright. Kalau tidak, saya memang cakap panjang lah. So targets are 50 billion ringgit national GDP by the year 2030 and 100,000 people. So yang ni PM lah, PM keeper apa at the moment, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri. Broken into agriculture, manufacturing, services sector. Okay. So I just want to explain macam mana dapat 50 billion number ni. Sebenarnya this work was originally done based on the work done for the UK drone industry by PricewaterhouseCoopers. Okay. So there's 2 types of revenue that's coming from the drone industry. The first one is the revenue that you disrupt. Kan? Dulu yang orang yang bawa tangga tu, dia ada kerja kan. So bila drone dah masuk, dia tak ada kerja kan. Tapi revenue tu masih ada. Mungkin lagi kecil sebab mungkin drone company charge only 70%, 30% discount. Kan? Tapi that is still drone revenue. But it has disrupted somebody else's revenue. Orang lain telah kehilangan pekerjaan. Right? Ataupun telah berubah pekerjaan kepada pekerjaan drone. Right? The other one is new revenue. Okay, so for example, I know there's some people from BNB here, maybe. So if the drone company provides you better asset availability, right? That means they don't provide you drone service, they provide you total asset management. Total asset management means you say pencawang ni 100% availability, takkan rosak, right? So kalau 100% availability takkan rosak, then service dia bagus kan? Service dia bagus, boleh charge klien lebih, right? Or akan penggunaan electricity akan lebih. So dia akan menampakkan peningkatan di dalam pendapatan. So there's an increase in revenue. That increase in revenue is the goal of the drone services player. Because once you've disrupted the original revenue, which is usually lower than the guy who was doing it before, you now have to create new revenue, which usually is a percentage of savings. Right? So how much that company is now saving is your hard won. How many percent? You say 10%, 5%, 20% of the savings. Right? So it's a shared business model. This is typical for disruption business models. So there are two types of revenue. So when PwC did this in the UK, they counted for these two types, and they came up with coefficients. Coefficients too is just multiplier lah, right? So what they said is, based on the GDP of these contribution of these sectors, agriculture, manufacturing, and services, you multiply the percentage GDP uplift due to the drone industry, you get your impact of the drone industry in the country, right? But that was UK. How can we apply it in Malaysia? The number one drone services company at the time in the UK was a Malaysian company, it was Aerodyne. So if we were providing that service in the UK and getting that value from the UK GDP, right? That means that we can do it here. So that's a very simple logic. And all we have to look at is what is Malaysia's agriculture, manufacturing and services GDP, multiply that number. So that's how the 50 billion was calculated. Okay? As a target. As a target. Exactly what's the breakdown to? That's what we're doing in this room. The start of getting that breakdown. Who is earning what money of that 50 billion? That's where this is starting today. Okay? And then obviously 100,000 jobs follows that lah. And these were the startups that were highlighted at the early start of the game, which are still the leading companies today. Okay. Any questions on that one? Soalan? Ada? Okay. Alright. So this MD Action Plan, Malaysian Drone Technology Action Plan 2030, MD Tech 2030, right? Technical working group now has been formed, right? So this was presented dekat Mesyuarat Majlis Ekonomi Digital dan Revolusi Perindustrian Keempat Negara (MAG4IRN) yang dipengerusikan oleh Perdana Menteri Malaysia, okay, dan telah diluluskan sebagai Technical Working Group. Okay. So this is official. It's reporting to the Prime Minister through this platform. So this action plan is an official government plan, which is why we'll have the Minister join us in a while. Okay. So this will fit from here. Penyelaras is MRANTI. So MRANTI will coordinate everybody. Okay. And ahli tetap at the moment at CAM, NPC dengan My Digital. Right. Mungkin ada lebih yang akan ditambah as we go along. Okay. But this is the reporting all the way to PM. So it's a PM punya ni because this is a major economic zone growth area identified in Malaysia. Okay, so the drone industry now, so some of the work that Strand has done. How many minutes from Minister? 11. Okay, it's about to be past. So I don't know if you're familiar with this. This is the hype cycle by the Gartner consulting firm. What is a hype cycle? Any new technology will go through a cycle of hype. So, bila give you a simple example, Pokemon Go. right? So at the start kan, uptake, and then dia akan plateau out, lepas tu dia akan stabilize kan. This is the Gartner hype cycle. So the only point to make here is very simple. The drone industry now is here. So quite a lot of the hype is past already. Now we are settling into the business models yang boleh bertahan, right? Because the solutions are now maturing. This is the opportunity for Malaysia. Dan Malaysia adalah antara negara yang ke depan kan. Dan negeri Selangor adalah yang leading the drone industry at the moment. Paling banyak drone industry players untuk yang bertanding di arena negara, negara international, right? So when you look at this plateau of productivity now, here is where a lot of the very same investment starts coming in lah. They will start looking at the business model opportunity and try to target what are the new revenue streams yang dia boleh offtake, right? So I find that now sekarang ni banyak the infrastructure players are coming in, right? So owners of infrastructure like TNB, like Telecom, and all these kind of guys, right? They start coming into the picture. And in this place also, because of the regulator now coming into position, we have a more stable growth profile probably. Right? Now, still having said that, it's faster than most other industries, but drone is evolving quickly. So that's where we are in the Gartner hype cycle. And if you look at the jobs, I mentioned tadi ni, this is job disruption. So kalau dulu, well, sekarang masih lagi lah kan. Kalau in a construction site kita ada construction site manager, ada quantity surveyor, ada planner, project manager, ada occupational health and safety punya office kan. Dalam bila drone dah dimasukkan, then a lot of these new skills are needed and this activity ni akan berubah. Macam site manager construction ni kadang-kadang cara dia tahu apa yang sedang berlaku, dia akan berjalan kat site kan, ataupun daripada gate kat depan dia tahu lah lori masuk lori keluar kan. Itu dia punya quantity kan. Tapi sekarang ni with the drone ni dia boleh pantau daripada atas, dia boleh tengok, dia boleh ambil gambar. I've seen some of the technology for the drone, aerodyne. Daripada gambar tu dia boleh tahu tanah ada berapa banyak, simen ada berapa banyak kan. Dia boleh calculate automatically on the site. Sebenarnya progress project sekarang ni kat mana, barang dah masuk dah berapa banyak kan. So totally different way of managing the site. And then benda tu, data tu akan terus kepada siapa yang di atas lah, daripada management semua. So kalau ni tak cukup barang ni kan, kalau tak cukup barang ni, we will have a problem in 2 weeks time. Then the AI daripada aerodyne kan cakap, okay, 2 minggu lagi tak cukup barang kan, construction akan stop. So top management ni can play a role already, right? So daripada situ dia akan kurangkan apa? BO, variance order. Okay, today I did a lot of work with construction industry. 100% variance order memang biasa kan? Projek 100 juta jadi 200 juta kan? Itu typical. So if you can reduce the VO, right, then drone company akan ambil daripada itu, that saving on the VO. So it's quite lucrative kan? If it's a multi-million-dollar project, you're making a lot of money if you're saving 10%, 20%, 30% on variance orders. Okay. So you start to get new skills, old skills become obsolete. The change in the process and procedure, right? So mungkin quantity surveyor punya kerja pun dah berubah daripada dia sebenarnya ambil job sheet tu, kerja diisi kan, and then find out apa kat dalam site tu. Sekarang ni it's just one drone operator. So mungkin dulu ada 5-6 orang, sekarang ada seorang je operate drone. So the number of jobs also has decreased, but the value of that job has increased. So maybe that guy's gaji is the gaji of 3 people, right? But he's doing the job probably 10 people. Okay. So occupation disruption is something we have to pay attention to, because this is 100,000 jobs that are new, but also means there are probably 150,000 people that have to change job. Itu yang penting lah, daripada segi negara tu yang kita kena tahu lah. So the difference between drone industry and traditional industry, okay, ni I ambil daripada automotive industry kan. So Malaysia, so whoever is from the government MITI, Matrix punya side, you'll be familiar with this traditional market acquisition. So MITI kalau dia nak promote an industry kat Malaysia, dia akan kata, okay, for example automotive industry. Automotive industry is worth X trillion every year globally, kan? Malaysia want to take how many percent of that industry, right? Dan daripada compact car sampai luxury car, right? Okay, kita akan ambil sedan punya car. That's the market we want to target, right? Then the government will come up with incentive scheme to help that growth of the industry. The idea is to take from an industry that exists and make a Malaysian pie from that. Okay. That is traditional. This is how traditional market works, right? I want to explain that to you because the government thinks like this at the moment. So, if I ask you now, drone industry akan ambil market daripada apa? You still cannot define, right? You don't know. Because the market is still being created. And this is the problem. Because the government doesn't work that way at the moment. The government works on a market of it. That means it needs to know what is the global market share and what is it that we are trying to get. Right? So the drone industry is what you call an emerging industry. And most new technology industries are emerging industries. So you are the pioneers of defining what a very high growth emergent industry will probably be like. Okay. So what does that tend to be like, right? So usually we identify a potential market technology solution. This is where usually we start. Ada drone lah, kan? Oh, ni ada potential drone ni yang gambar, dia buat macam-macam kan. So we identify that. And then some starting players will start to apply. Hey, let's try and see if we can do inspection of assets and so on and so forth, and see if we can do business. That's how it starts, right? But then eventually it starts eating up at somebody else's business enough so that the previous business dah tak viable, right? Orang yang pakai truck dengan tangga tu tak boleh buat kerja dah. Sebab dia punya price dah terlalu tinggi, then everybody nak pergi ke drone. Then it start to shift, kan? Then what happened here is scale up. So, in the scale up is usually where a lot of the starting players will die. Because in scale up, you need money. Without money, you cannot buy more drones, you cannot make more drones, you cannot put out your service, you cannot compete on price. And this is where the funders like Drone Fund Japan and all are looking. They're looking for the scale up opportunity because that's where their money is going to make more money. Okay? So that's how this thing works. And then only it starts to settle into a steady state, right? Now whoever got killed over here, your tangga man with the knee, he will not have a business anymore. He'll have to go into something else, right? So this is a new language. That's why we need the mission economy method. Mission economy means we just set a target and then we go. That target tu kita ada some definition, tapi kita takkan tahu sehingga kita mulakan the journey dan bergerak ke arah sana. That's important. So we're moving together as a team, right? This is what's important. We are all moving together. We're all nations. It's all in our benefit that this happens, so that all of us have got a future. Otherwise, what will happen? I give a very good example. Kowe. Kowe is the most disgusting business model ever because imagine dia letak mesin tu dalam rumah you, they charge you for your duit yang you dah bayar dah kat Jabah. Betul? Every month they collect value. They put a machine between you and the water, and then you drink. And that money doesn't come to Malaysia, apart from abang kakak yang buat servis lah. That money goes back to Korea. Right? And now Katil, right? Where you think it's going to go? It's Korea home, right? Eventually you pay one sum every month. Katil, fridge, semua Korea kasi. You don't own anything, tapi bayarannya okay. Mengasabah. And kalau you tengok Katil Korea kan, Katil Korea tu is orthopedic mattress. Kalau you pergi try and buy orthopedic mattress, berapa ringgit tu? Minimum 6-7,000 ringgit on orthopedic mattress. Kan? And dia ada model tu je. Tapi dia punya price point 69 ringgit kan sekarang kalau single bed. So if you have a bad back, sakit belakang and you need orthopedic mattress, okay lah 69 ringgit sebulan tak apa, janji aku boleh tidur kan. What is that? That's a service model. So now, even orang yang at the lower end of income can afford the Kowe mattress and orthopedic mattress. Kowe only has 4 or 5 different mattress model. Kalau you pergi Dreamland dan Sweet Dream tu, mungkin ada 50 different model kan. Daripada model orang miskin sampai model orang kaya. So dia punya production tu very complicated. Kowe 3-4 atau 5 produk saja. Service 70% of the market. Duit tu in service economy, you tak beli pun benda tu. And then every 3 years dia datang, dia ambil benda tu, dia recycle. So dia pun cyclic sustainable economy. And this is disruption. Ini disruption. So orang yang buat mattress sekarang-sekarang ni berapa lama boleh tahan? So this is why you have to watch, right? Because you are in the service industry. The drone guys, even the ones who are manufacturing, will have to provide the drone as a service. Macam aircraft, orang don't own the aircraft. You tak beli aircraft, you lease aircraft. Tony Fernandez doesn't want the aircraft, dia nak kerusi je. Kan, kerusi terbang. Kalau you boleh kasih dia kerusi terbang, dia very happy. Dia tak perlu aircraft tu. Sebab dia charge you for the seat. Kan? So kalau kapal motor ada 200 seats and only 50 are being used, dia rugi. Right? So this is why it's a service economy. So he doesn't own the airplane, he lease. So this is where this emerging industry ni is going to move very fast, and the business model that you have is very important. Very important. Right? It has to be agile. And from an user standpoint, like the police or the armed forces, they just want better service. That's all, right? Hari ni macam ni, besok I nak lagi macam ni, I nak macam ni, and that's their prerogative. They set the requirement. You have to come up with a solution. So you always have to be thinking ahead. Otherwise, somebody else will come and take your solution. And worst case is some Korean company comes to Malaysia, set up, and charge you for it. Okay, so don't let that happen. Alright, this is our business at the moment because we are leading the global industry. Right. Okay, the 8 missions are: develop a nationwide unmanned traffic management system that will facilitate drone tech industry growth. So this is the UTM system, the most important system that the Civil Aviation Authority needs, because you cannot do it in the normal way because the number of drone operations is going to be very, very high. Okay, so we need a unmanned traffic management system which will have AI and so on and so forth, right? So the start of this.
For security, there's a screen behind.
Okay, let me gambar screen tu juga. I don't know if they're sharing this slide. Alright. Number 2, mission: provide agriculture sector a scalable solution that will address the labour shortage challenges and achieve higher yields. Okay, don't forget that each one of these dia ada revenue targetnya. Dan sebagai as a whole, 50 billion ringgit by year 2030. Okay. So agriculture. Number 3, provide support for security and rescue forces to respond faster and safer during emergency and disaster periods. I think globally there's a lot of application of drone for basically disaster management. Memang it's a big thing. Kalau masa flood hari itu kita boleh hantar beras pakai drone, memang senang kan. Tapi hari itu kita boleh buat pantauan je. Sebab CM pun takut nanti drone tu jatuh atas kepala orang macam mana kan. So one of the simplest services during the flood was if you hantar bateri cell phone kan, orang tak boleh charge bateri kan. Kalau boleh hantar tu pun at least orang boleh berkomunikasi. That would be an easy drone service to provide. So disaster. Number 4, provide urban air mobility solution as a sustainable, cost-effective transportation alternative. Kereta terbang, ya, akan berlaku. InsyaAllah akan diprototypekan penggunaan di Selangor. And di Singapura pun dah di trial sekarang. This one because it's all electric. So sebagai carbon footprint aerospace industry ni, this is a big disruptor lah yang kita akan gunakan. Number 5, develop competent skilled workforce that meets the needs of the drone tech industry. So this is all the training, education part. So from drone pilots all the way to data analysts, to maybe even the civil service kan, mungkin ada training untuk polis, ada training untuk armed forces, menggunakan drone. So this is the whole industry itself. Mission 5. Mission 6, establish manufacturing, maintenance, repair and overhaul facilities and operations for the drone tech industry. So in the 5 centers tu will be some of the first places lah. I know some of you already manufacturing. Kalau ada yang test kat padang bola ke apa kan, itu akan kita kena mantau sikit. Kalau if you're doing drone design and development, right? So manufacturing of drones and for different kind of services, right? Mission 7, provide an effective means of medical supply logistics in rural areas. Ni di Sabah Sarawak pun dah di rasa MRANTI, I think is doing some work here and Aerodyne as well. And ni penting sebab memang servis ni macam di Afrika, you have sky line. What's it called? Strip line. Yes, strip line, yes. So that one deliver medicines all over South Africa, to rural areas, right? So a very big service. A lot of drones doing that service today. And finally, provide a robust smart city management solution for the private sector, state and federal governments. So at the end of the day, how the drones help us live in a better urban environment. Okay. That is I meant to take. Okay, so I won't go to this because these are just some of the potential players. This is not exhaustive, right? These lists are the initial list of companies lah and organizations, but we will add. Ini sebab PowerPoint besar ni je kan, betul je lah. So please register your interest lah as you go along, right? So this is the idea. This is my second last slide. 2021 we established the action plan and the sandbox idea. Okay, now I'll just explain to you the sandbox idea in a second, but just take it for granted for a moment. And there are 8 missions, right? So we now in 2022 we are establishing the first ecosystems, the first players that are collaborating for these 8 missions, starting with the 2 Safwan talked about tadi, right? The UTM system and the disaster, right? By 2025, so today actually we're on track. The GDP contribution is around about 200 million per annum, dalam 200 juta ringgit setahun contribution GDP, right? So by end of this year, kalau kita punya one day approval ni, insyaAllah the one day approval will be settled by the end of this year for the first phase, and then by next year kita akan ada for more operations, the UTM system that will allow more one day operations. Okay, itu yang penting lah. That means kita tak payah gila dah takut dah cakap ni. nanti kita bincang. But it's important sebab sekarang ni I think it's 12 to 14 days kan minimum, or 21 days sorry, on average 21 days, on average 21 days. So difficult to do business 21 days, yeah. So we need to bring it down to 1 day, and how do we do that? So we'll do it in phases, right? But in there we must prove the operating models, the COPs must be proven. The common operating procedures need to be proven. They must be tested and they must be regulatory approved. Right? So whatever it is you want to do, whether you want to deliver ubat ke, you want to provide site analysis ke, you want to provide disaster recovery ke, all of those common operating procedures, your COPs need to be tested, approved and sanctioned by the Aviation Authority. Alright? So once we go there, then the sky is the limit. We expect by 2025 easily 5 billion already by GDP. Okay? Because agriculture will be increasing a lot of drone activities, I believe. I think total facilities management, asset management is going to be very much drone driven, right? And then when you talk about delivery of drugs and medical supplies, I think there's going to be drone delivery. And also we have asset management from Petronas using quite a bit of drones now for asset management as well, right? Finally, 2030, our skyline like this lah. Ada kereta terbang, ada drone delivery and other things as well. Ada orang daripada Seremban belakang KL kerja naik drone kan, harga RM2.50 je. So I think those kind of things. Because remember, kereta terbang ni sebenarnya apa? Kereta terbang ni kereta yang tak ada jalan. Kan? Maksudnya anywhere you can connect with a flying car. That means I tak payah invest in jalan raya. So Sabak Penang pun boleh direct ke KL, kan? Itu yang sebenarnya manfaat kepada orang luar bandar, kan? Dia akan membuka ekonomi luar bandar. That is what kereta terbang really is. It's a new way of thinking of connecting the country. Okay, final one. Thanks. So what does it look like? Mula-mula kita punya sandbox macam ni. Semua ada large companies, SMEs, ada market players, ada regulator, ada policy players, policy punya organisation, ada R&D, universities and all this, ada financiers, the funders, the banks and so on so forth, the training institutions, the support services. So all of these all have business model dalam sandbox to deliver economic impact, and all of you are making money in some way, right? Apart from the service forces which are consuming the service, right? But providing a better service to the rakyat. Okay. So as we go along, there will be more players. Alright. So I need you to visualize it like this. Dia macam rahim. Okay. Yang penting sebab pada tahap ni baby not born yet, belum lahir lagi. Kita tak tahu macam mana bentuk dia lagi. Cuma ada feature-feature je. Ini penting sebab katalah government akan rasa, dia akan tanya, drone industry, show me the drone industry. Kita akan show a version of the drone industry. Tapi maybe 2 years from now akan berubah, right? Itu penting, itu mentality yang penting. Kita kena embrace perubahan, right? So by the time kat sini, baby is born. Baby is born means very clear, sustainable business models, 50 billion a year, easily coming from multiple revenue sources. Okay. So this is the action plan. Finish right on time. Tak cukup masa untuk question. Maybe one question. If there's any question? Any question? Yes.
Okay. I'm for this action plan, so I think it's a good action plan. But on top of that, if you would like to know whether it is robust enough untuk tidak, in parallel like us in industry, we have our own premise and so on. So how can we something like a pivot little bit can address the industry needs for the specific location? Bagi contoh, this is have all the steps that you need to deliver this, tapi in certain area atau certain location that some part we can be further accelerated in order for us to achieve some of the
goals. You know about testing lah.
Maybe testing or operationalize within that premise is not.
Okay, localized operation.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think all that is business model. But business model berubah kan. So maybe we will start with some types of business model that where we have to work very closely with CM. So this area where we have macam ladang kelapa sawit ni kan. So okay, operation kat sini akan macam ni dan kita akan pantau begini, right? Dan it's making money, right? It's doing revenue. But we have to be managing those common operating procedures, right? And then once we have enough data, we should be able to roll out and standardize, kan? So I think those kind of sub-sandbox punya activities, that's what you're saying, right? These test environments, right? Which are real operating environments, right? Yeah. We facilitate, I think, working with you on the model of how it's supposed to be facilitated. We cannot just chop everybody macam tu kan. Nanti everybody if CM cannot keep control of the situation, then they will lose their regulatory punya position. So kita kena be very mindful lah. Kalau CM baru dapat level 1 balik kan. Alhamdulillah, congratulations CM. So the very hard work of the team under Chester pun kan. Tapi dah itu dah downgrade kan ke level 2. Dia downgrade tu macam MQA lah. Kalau MQA downgrade apa jadi? Kita punya degree pun tak boleh pakai kan. Same thing with the Civil Aviation Authority. So a lot of people did not realize when they went to level 2, the whole country was impacted. The whole country was impacted. Right? So we must make sure that we are working with them. But yes, we must enable business models, right? So how is it lah? There's an investment plan, then there's a structure. Maybe you have to help them with the resource, right? So but to come up with a business model, how is it that we work together? This is the important part. Right? Do I know now? No, I don't. We have to get the details. We have templates in the action plan to show how it will be done. Whatever. Okay, menteri sampai.
Thank you for the briefing.